What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. So we are waiting on the last couple of parts for the Triumph build. So that video on this will be coming out hopefully by this weekend. Today is Wednesday. I think the parts should be here and we should start to play around with it a little bit. I've come up with hopefully a good idea on the back end of this to address our small wheel and the kind of issues we have in the back. But we are still obviously focused on the engine right now because there's no point in building the rest of this bike if the engine is not going to work for us. So I'm just waiting for the last little parts and pieces. We're probably going to vapor blast some pistons, that kind of stuff. I will leave the rest of it for that upcoming video. Today, we're actually going to be working on something different, and it's going to be that Land Rover. So today we're going to be working on this Land Rover Discovery. This is a 1997, I believe, 96, 97, something like that. Basically, this is a good friend of the customer that I built the blue CB550 for a month or so ago. This is a good friend of his, had this Land Rover, is very fond of it, has a kind of a personal connection with the car, but it has been sitting for a number of years. The last time it was registered, I believe, was like 2015. So it's been about 5 years or so since it's run. So we have a laundry list of things to do. That's what I've been doing over the last couple of days, is kind of getting a quote together for him to fix a lot of this stuff. The main thing we need to do is get this engine running to see if it's going to be a good candidate for us, or if we're going to have to go deeper to get this thing up and driving and reliable. So what I'm going to do today is kind of drain out the old fuel, see if we can get this thing fired up with some fresh gas. Ideally, it's not going to take a ton to come back to life, but that's what we're going to figure out. Let's dive in. Let's see what we got under here. So these are 4-liter V8s. I believe they're actually made by Buick, if I'm not mistaken. This one is quite dirty. I just want to start checking fluids. It's got oil. The oil actually looks pretty darn good on it. Let's double check the level. Yeah, we'll need to top it up a little bit, but it should be good for getting it running. The customer said that he had put some fresh oil in here. I think he messed with it not that long ago. He said he replaced like the spark plugs. I believe he even said he replaced the coils. So hopefully all of that put together will prove to make this thing come back relatively easy. I just want to pull the air box off, because we're going to be spraying some starter fluid down here just to see if we can get it. And you can see it's got a brand new filter in it, so it's had some maintenance done. Leave that off for now. So we have oil. Main thing I'm worried about is that, you know, these are obviously fuel injected, and fuel injectors, if they've been run with ethanol fuel, which, you know, any fuel from the last 10 years or so has had ethanol in it, they can get kind of gummed up, and they're not as easy to clean out as like a carburetor would be, where you could just pull it apart, clean the jets out. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So what I think I'm going to do now is, before we overcomplicate things, I'm just going to see if the key actually turns it over. I know our battery is shot, so let me hook up my jump box. We'll go in, we'll turn the key and just make sure that the wiring and the ignition system and everything seems to be working, and then we'll move on. Got the jump box hooked up. Let me go stick the key in the ignition and see if it turns over for you. Oh, it does, but my jump box might be dead. Yeah. Let me charge this bad boy up. So while I'm waiting for my battery box to charge, I went ahead and threw on a different one. This one doesn't have enough juice in it to start the engine, but it does have enough juice for me to drain out the old gas. So it's got about 1/4 of a tank of 5-year-old fuel in it. So what I did is just made a quick jumper wire, jump the fuel pump relay, and then it is pumping right now. What I did is just took off the inlet to the fuel filter, ran it through a longer hose into one of my 5-gallon gas cans, and I'm just going to let it sit here and run until it's completely empty. Hopefully there's not more than 5 gallons in there. If there is, I'll have to find another gas can, but if you can hear it just humming along back there, as soon as that's done, I'll hook everything back up. I did verify that the fuel pump relay and everything is working, so we'll fill the tank with fresh gas and then we'll have that knocked off the list, and we'll be back to hopefully hearing this thing make some pops and bangs here in the not too distant future. Filled up the whole 5-gallon bucket and then probably about another gallon or so in this one, and she's totally empty now. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook the fuel line back up to the fuel filter, get all that tidied back up. We will throw some fresh gas in here. I only have maybe 2 or 3 gallons. Hopefully that will be enough. And then, yeah, we'll go to the front, turn the key, see if we can build some fuel pressure, and then we'll turn the key and see what happens. Got everything hooked back up, put a couple gallons of gas in there, but the fuel gauge really isn't even responding to anything yet. So I'm turning the key on to the on position, probably gonna do it 5 or 6 times. Try and prime the system, build up a little bit of fuel pressure. Try it now. Nothing. Charge the battery and the jump box up a little bit. Not sure if it's going to be enough yet, but let's see. No dice. It's the next day. I charged the battery overnight, also charged the jump box as well. So let's see if this helps at all. Nothing yet. I'm gonna go ahead and cycle the key a few times, let it build some pressure. Maybe we'll spray some more fluid through the intake, see if that helps. Tried starting it a few more times with no pops or bangs or anything. So what I decided to do was go ahead and start to check for spark. The first thing I did was just pull off one of the spark plug wires, and I noticed every single spark plug was hand tight. None of them were actually tightened down all the way. So I tightened them down, tried again. Fortunately, it didn't make any difference. I had my wife crank it while I checked for spark, you know, with just a spark plug up against the exhaust manifold. No spark at all. So I don't think we're getting spark on any cylinder. So I need to go ahead and start to double check everything. Since the owner of this vehicle said that the spark plugs and coils and everything were replaced, and the fact that the spark plugs were just hand tight, leads me to want to go down the path of double checking everything I know was done. So I'm going to go ahead and just start checking all the wiring to the coils, each individual spark plug wire, you know, just make sure they're all actually seated properly. I know that there's a sensor, it's right over here. It's like a rollover sensor, but I'm 99% sure that that just cuts fuel. It doesn't cut spark as well, but I'll need to investigate that and see if that's triggered. I think you can just push this button on the top of it to reset it. So I don't think that would be causing our no spark. So I'm just going to go through a couple of different things that I can think of, kind of double check all the wiring, and I'll let you guys know, hopefully, when I find an issue. So I've been doing some diagnostics, and from what I determined is the ECU is not getting any engine signal. I checked all the wiring and everything to the coils. I don't think it's any of that. So what I've figured out and doing a little bit of research on the forums is that a common problem on these is the crank shaft position sensor can go bad. So I decided to check this one out. Let me crawl under here for a second. So I'm under the car now. If you can see that little brown plug right there, that's the crank position sensor. The wires that are coming out of it, literally just dangling here, completely cut and broken off. So the ECU is getting no crank position at all, which means it's not trying to give spark. I believe that's what it's doing, because it has to know the engine's turning over to know, okay, now it's time to start. So I did some diagnostics on like the immobilizer and all kinds of stuff, and this is definitely a problem, hopefully the problem. So I'm gonna try and get that plug off because this wire is completely shot. I gotta see if I can repin it. I also need to figure out where this wire even ran to originally, so I can find the other side of it and see if we can repair this and at least take this one piece of the puzzle out. But my gut is telling me that this you know, is our main problem. So I'm gonna try and get that plug off and dig around a little bit and see if we can't get this repaired. Here's another shot of it outside. I obviously depinned it, and just the first 4 inches of wires just completely shot. I still haven't been able to determine where this side goes. I can't find any broken wire or anything. Absolutely nothing on the forums either, so it's going to be probably a bit of a pain, but I figured out I can actually order a replacement pigtail for it, so I don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to repin this one and replace the wire. I can just order a new one for like 20 bucks. So I'm going to do that, get one on the way, and we'll just you know, kind of go from there once it gets here. Well, that's where I'm going to call it on this one, because I have been dying to get a video out, and we're going to have to order parts, and I don't want to keep this rolling and be, you know, 2 weeks without any kind of video. So I'm just going to make this part 1 of the Land Rover Will It Run video. I'll get some parts on the way. While we're waiting for those parts, I will probably jump back on the Triumph, like I mentioned in the beginning part of this video, just to get you guys a video out on that in the next day or two as well. So I appreciate you guys watching as always. I hope everybody's staying safe. Thanks for liking and subscribing, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys soon.